Here we are back today with Jeff Neill of Street Heart. And if you haven't heard the first half of the interview with Jeff, please go back to the episode right before this. Jeff has so much great stuff to share. I mean, such a career with so much longevity and just really a lot of great information to share with you guys. And I'm so excited for you to hear the whole thing. So if you haven't heard all of it, listen to the episode beforehand. And here's the conclusion of our interview. Thanks for listening. And you've collaborated with a lot of artists over the years, and you've spoken to it a little bit already today, but, music can be perceived as a pretty, well, and sometimes it really is a pretty competitive industry.
Oh, yeah.
But it's quite interesting because the more people I talk to in depth, the more people really come at it from a place of like community and mutual respect and support, and they're in it because they're getting to play music with their friends, and they're getting, so there's.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about how the collaborations in your career have come to pass, and what your experience has been in terms of that piece of community and support as opposed to competition?
I mean, I've written with this. I've written music with some amazing people.
Yeah.
I mean, very, very, very lucky. Some a lot, some a little, and I've done different. Whether it's been songs, whether it's been writing music for television series, whether it's writing commercials. I've learned from some of the best, and I think in general, I found that people have been very gracious and very, very generous with their talents.
Yep.
I like to think that I kind of help to make the room good that way. I mean, I always sort of bring that. I try and bring that. I want people to be great. Like I people ask me what my strengths are. I make people better, if that makes sense.
That's a pretty great strength to have, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, I think I love to see whoever I'm working with, I want to see them fly.
Yeah.
Because that's where my success comes from, making that happen. I like to, I have an opportunities from time to time to do it on my own, and I'm fully willing to have a go at it. And I'm pretty confident in what I can do. I work hard. So, someone says, can you do this? I go, yeah, I can do this. But the best writers have always been the most generous writers. They're open to ideas and try things. I mean, I've had some not so good writing, and most of the not good creative sessions just don't amount to anything.
Yeah.
Nothing really happens because of it. The most successful writers, a lot of what they do is based on it's discipline. I had lunch with Jim Vallis a number of years ago when I moved back to Vancouver. We were just talking about stuff, and we were talking, and he was saying that he wasn't writing much anymore because he'd just been through that part of his life, and a lot of what he was doing was taking care of his catalog. That's a full-time job because he's got a big, him and Brian together have a huge catalog.
Yeah, enormous.
And he basically said the key to his success was 12 hours a day, 6 days a week for 15 years. That's sort of paraphrasing what he said, but essentially that's what him and Adams did, is they worked every day at it from noon till midnight, taking Sundays off, and they did that for a decade and a half. And that's how you get good. Yeah. That's how you get 200 plus songs placed.
Yep.
You have to you just do the work, and you find people you like to work with. I mean, what a collaboration, those two talents. Amazing. Yep. Jimmy Barnes and I were like that with Street Heart. With the first album that I wrote with the band, we got together every day in Kenny Shields' apartment for the first album I did, the Street Heart album, which has the Heart on the Street, which was my first album with the band. For 6 months, we went to Kenny's every day. We sat around his kitchen table and put down ideas and recorded them onto a little cassette player. And then we go into a studio and we demo them as a rock band playing. And we did that every day, and it was a job. We went and did it. We treated what we did as a job. And inspiration is a very lazy creature. Inspiration shows up late. It may not even show up at all. But if hard work shows up in the room and starts working, inspiration usually will show up at some point.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
hard work is the one you have to, hard work is what you can count on.
Yep.
And, inspiration, if you work hard enough, inspiration finally shows up and goes, hey, I'm here.
Yeah.
What do you want?
And you have some pretty serious writing credits under your belt, co-writes with Jim Vallance and
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan Cain, Keith Urban,
Mm-hmm.
among others.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk a bit about your songwriting process?
Yeah, okay. Songwriting for me. It's very early. I was taught that always have a recording device
Yeah.
near where you are whenever you pick up an instrument.
Mm-hmm.
Don't say, "Oh, I'll get that later," because you don't get it later.
Mm-hmm.
And I still do that. I do that now. I'm sitting here in my studio. So when I practice, typically I'll run the Street Heart set first thing in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I do. That gets my hands in shape and it lets me play. And I've got a 90 minutes under my belt. And then when I start writing, and I'm always playing through my system, my recording system here. So I'll go, that's kind of cool. And I document every decent idea that I get.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the things that I may take to someone. And, what you show up, if you're writing with someone, if you're in collaboration with someone, depending on who you're working with, some people want to see a finished song. Some people want to see a half finished song so that they can put something into it.
Yeah.
It's the one thing I learned that very early writing with Jimmy Barnes. I would present him with completed songs, which he said, that's a great song, Jeff. Yeah, really great. But he wouldn't be that interested in it until I understood his business. And I realized, he said, Jeff, that he needed to have a certain amount of the publishing and songwriting on his album. So we needed to be involved. So I started coming to him with half finished songs, which said, Jimmy, these need lyrics. Okay, write lyrics. So then now we have a co-write.
Right.
And that really that was a very sort of, I went, right, I get how, you have to be more open. So I've learned to be more open to go, what is it? Who do you have to be? What type of person do you have to prepare yourself for going into a session?
Mm-hmm.
A commercial you have to do it all.
Mm-hmm.
For example, you're writing a jingle, you got to be able to do it all. You don't going to go, what do you think? You just got to show up with it. And I can do that too. And I'm prepared to take something myself, but I'm also prepared to go in with a skeleton and let someone be involved, because I think it's very important that everyone feel valuable in the room who's working together. Everyone needs to feel equal and that their opinion matters, and that when they have an idea, everyone shuts up and listens to them.
Yep.
That's really important.
I love that. And I think that's so important, because when you are collaborating with somebody artistically, that only works when there is a trust and safety in the process of that.
Absolutely.
That is the trust and safety to try things out, and the trust and safety to say, I don't think that's working. Let's try something else. Both are true.
Yeah. And you have to create a situation where everyone can be the very best they can be.
Yeah.
And like you talked about safety, and safety is one of the things that you need to provide in that creative room, because not all artists are completely outgoing and, loud like me. There's sometimes they're tender souls, and and you need to help bring it out of them. Mm-hmm. But I think if you, I've learned that working with younger artists, like coaching and producing singers, is creating a good environment and reminding them that they're really great. And we're not going back to do this again because you're not doing it well, but just to get an alternate.
Yeah.
And that creating that happy vibe in the room. Joy has a way of creating great art. I mean, I know, yeah. I mean, I know that some people talk about how you have to be depressed to write great music, and I haven't written very many songs where I've been really down. I write most of my best music when I'm in a groove, when I've been writing. And don't expect to go, if you haven't been writing for a couple of weeks or a month or 2 months or 6 months or whatever, you start again, don't expect anything. Like you have to learn to be patient. I do this. I'll get back and I go, oh God, I've completely forgotten what I'm doing. I don't. The muse has left me. Muse has left the building, folks.
Yeah.
I'm done. And I go back, and then about 5 days later, of beating your head against the wall, all of a sudden you go, okay, that's kind of good. And you find you can stay in the studio longer. Like the first day
Yeah.
back, after an hour, I'm going, what time is it? God, I've been here for 24 minutes. It's like I've been here for 6 hours. And then once you get in the groove, all of a sudden, it's 6 o'clock at night. There's three coffee cups, and you're still in your PJs, and you've written this great song. Then you're in a groove.
I also think that there is a place where whether it's because you've been away from it for a while and you're coming back to it, or whether it's just part of the cycle of doing it, but sometimes you have to write the shit to get it out of the way to kind of clear
Oh
the
yeah,
pipes for the good stuff.
absolutely, absolutely. And Sarah, you hear about these great records. You think of, like, let's look at Thriller.
Mm-hmm.
What an incredible album! They looked at 300 songs for that album.
Wow. I did not know that.
300 songs.
And what's on the final record? Like 16, 18?
Not even that many. I think less than that. The final album, remember, it's sort of vinyl at the time.
Yeah.
So
maybe
it was
10 or
only
12.
38 minutes.
Yeah.
I would guess, I would hazard to guess, I don't know, but I guess it's not much more than 10. It might be 9 songs.
Yeah.
On the Street Art album, for example, there's 9 songs.
Yeah.
We probably wrote about 30 for it. The Jimmy Barnes records, we'd usually go into a pre-production studio with about 50 or 60 songs. I remember we did a couple albums with Don Gaiman, producing. Don, a wonderful producer from the U.S., John Cougar Mellencamp, REM. And he would fly over, and we'd go into rehearsal hall for 2 weeks, and let's pull this one up, and we'd start working on it for about an hour, and then we go, yeah, okay, let's put that on the contenders list, or go, nah, not working. We just toss it. Every song got an hour, and we did that for 2 weeks. We'd run through maybe 8 or 10 songs a day, and then we'd go, okay, here's our 20. And then maybe 2 would get, and I remember we recorded for that. We recorded, I think, 19 tracks, which we ended up using. 12 went on the disc, and then the rest of them were saved for B-sides and stuff like that. But you have to, like what you're talking about, getting rid of the crap to get to the good stuff. You have to dig a whole lot of ore to get an ounce of gold.
Yep.
And so kids, write lots. Write lots.
I think that is a piece that, for young artists, they maybe don't realize that it's not your first 10 songs that are going on the record.
No.
It is your best 10 songs that are going on the record. And that might come after writing 100 songs or 300 songs.
Oh, Sarah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I've been there myself. One of the things we talk is, and sometimes people will try, they keep a song on life support, and I go, let it go.
Yeah.
It's not working. It's really not that good. And the songs, they're not kids. It's just a song. They're not family members. Every one of them doesn't have to succeed. They can you might be able to reuse it somewhere down the road. You might say.
So that piece right there, that's another thing. I talk to students about that a lot, that let it go. Like if it's a shitty song, let it go. But it's never gone. You can steal from yourself all you want. That one line in the shitty song, you can pull that out and put it in a different song later. That bridge that was a great section, but the rest of the song was crap.
Yeah.
Keep the bridge and put it in something else, etc.
Yeah. I agree. I think that, and you have to just give value to, all your stuff, even if you're not using it. Just, but don't throw it, like you say, don't throw it out yet, because there might be something, there's a little bit of chicken on that bone. So just hang on to it, and again, it might be an intro. What Kind of Love Is This was basically I had a chorus and an intro, and Daryl Gooshall had a verse and a lead up, and as Daryl tells it, he said he played it. He said, I've got this, don't you want, try it on home. I'm waiting in line. And then he's, again, open the love in your eyes. And he went, what do I got? And I went, boom, boom, what kind of love? I said, I got a chorus for this thing.
Yeah.
And that's, and that's how that went. And there were kind of parts. So,
Yeah.
What you were alluding to earlier, it's just you keep all these parts and you never know when you're going to use them and when they're going to come in handy. And you go, I've got the perfect, I'm glad I saved that nail because this nail is going to work perfectly to put this picture up on the wall with.
Sometimes it really is just putting a jigsaw puzzle together.
Oh yeah. Sure it is. Sure it is. I mean, sometimes they just, you get a gift from the heavens and the muse smiles down on you and goes, I am going to give you a, today you're just going to write a piece of magic. I've read a number of stories where they go, it just kind of fell into place, and it does that when you do what we were talking about, which is get through the junk. The good stuff will show itself, and keep everything and write. And just, you have to write lots. If you want to be successful, you have to write lots. If you want 10 hits, you better be able to write 500 songs.
Yeah.
And hopefully somewhere along the way, you will meet someone who will be able to champion your talent and your songs. Yeah. And that's all we can hope for.
Yeah. Okay. So I have to ask you this because my husband is a guitar player and is a huge fan of not only Street Heart, but your playing specifically. And
that's nice.
He made me promise to ask you this question.
Okay.
He wanted to know how you guys came up with the name Street Heart.
Well,
which actually I think speaks to something that all artists face, right? Which is the naming of a project, because that's a...
Well, I don't know if there's a meaning as such. As the Street Heart was named before I joined the band. And Spider Sinev came up with the name. And I think if memory serves me, he said he had some dream about reading. He had a dream that he read what was the worst review ever by a band in Rolling Stone magazine called Street Heart. Like what he was just pulling my leg was something, but I don't think was a lot more into it. But it's a very clever name. I've always liked it from the get go. I love the logo. I love the band's logo. It still looks good on T-shirts. And it's just kind of a neat name. I'm glad we weren't called, I don't know, the Glitter Boys or something like that. I don't know. I mean, it's something. It's aged well over the years. So all credit has to go to Spider Sinev on that one. I think that's sort of the true story, but I don't think there's no other deeper meaning. He just said, "Hey, I had this weird dream, this band called Street Heart," and they probably went, "Oh, that's not a bad name." I remember when I heard it, I went, "Wow, what a great name! It's a great name." And it still stands up. I mean, I'm very proud to. I mean, I'm proud because of the quality of the band that I'm associated with and its history. I've done some great things in my life, and none makes me more proud than my time with Street Heart. So,
there's a concept I've been talking to students about who are going into the business, and it's that I think we need, as musicians, we need to have an understanding that we actually are a business. We function as a business. We are entrepreneurs. It just so happens that our product is our artistic skill. You have been representing Street Heart's business affairs and doing so for the past 15 years. So do you want to talk about that relationship between the sort of entrepreneurial business side of things and how that's, I think it's a really necessary piece of the creative. You can't just assume that somebody else is going to do it all for you. You got to know what you're doing.
You have to know what you're doing. And I can't, this is the most important lesson of all, is that we're in an industry called the music business. And it's that second word that is everything. It's a very, very difficult business, and it's not one to be taken lightly, and it's not one you can go to sleep on. I've learned that. Trust me, kids. You put your faith in someone else. You're gonna shed some tears. You're gonna waste some time. You're gonna lose some money. The sooner you can take control over as much of your business as you possibly can, that's where you're going to achieve success. That's your best chance of achieving success. Most of the people in the music industry make their money off of other people. Very few artists actually make their money off of their careers. So you can look at the pointy end of the spear, of course. Springsteen, Adams, pick the great Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, Beatles. They made the money off their own music, but most people that make money make it off of other people. And there are a lot of people that actually do well in this business very quietly. You read stories about people that they've written music and they just put it online and they stream it and they do this and they're very clever and they're very creative in their business. I've made it my business to recover a lot of what Street Heart lost. We spent a lot of time getting our songwriting catalog back and publishing and getting the rights to the name and trademarks and all that. And these are really important things. These are things you don't have to let go of. When you're starting out, you are a business. I mean, you have to treat it like a business and you have to make business time. I have very specific times in my day that are just business. It's just business. After I'm on a perfectly uninterrupted day for me, I get up, I get up at 7:30, make a pot of coffee, practice for an hour and a half, do my workout, sit down at my desk. Well, that's about 10 o'clock by that point, and just and do all my business, do everything, go through everything I have to do, make all the phone calls, whatever I have to do in the day. Like right now, I'm in the process of booking airplane flights for the summer because I don't want to wait to the last minute and not get the flights we want and put everybody under duress. It's stressful enough. So you want to take care of that business right now. And that's just one tiny little bit, but you have to, every aspect of what we do as an artist, without business, talent is lost. I saw it was a beautiful painting. It was a little boat on the ocean on a storm, and that's talent without business. It's adrift, and it's a learned skill. Business is business is it's just and it's math. It's science. 1 and 1 is 2. It always is. In business, 1 and 1 is always 2. When somebody tells you it's 1.5, then you don't want to work with that person.
Yeah.
Because, I know where, for the past 15 years, I can account for every single dollar we've made.
Yeah.
So
did you take any business courses or how did you develop the business skills that have served you well in your career?
I didn't take any formal training. I think I'm just kind of wired that way. I think I'm not afraid to ask questions, and I think that I'm pretty good at asking questions in a respectful manner, but direct. And I think I have I can figure things out. Like once I started doing it, I learned really quickly how to book flights. Yeah, I learned you can do it all online. There's no difference in price. Like I don't understand why people use a travel agent because you don't have to. It's the same price. I don't know how they get paid. I don't even know how they must get some kind of, because it's the same price with an agent. Travel
must
agent.
Be a kickback from the airline or something. I don't know.
But it's really easy to do. I make it my point every day to look at flights I need. I look at like the stock market. Okay, I wait for the sales and then I'll grab them and save. If I can save $50 on 6 flights, that's $300. It doesn't seem like much, but if I do that 40 times in a year, and that's $12,000.
Yeah,
it's like extra baggage charges. We don't have those anymore because the way we travel. But I used to get. I remember saying we're flying the cheapest flights we can, but we have to pay for all our bags, and that's costing us. One year was just over $10,000 in extra bag charges. It just adds up. You don't think about it. Okay,
Yeah.
it's $500 a week. Okay, but do that over the course of the year. Um, uh, you don't need a whole. I mean, you can teach yourself how to do things, and I mean,
Yeah.
the internet makes things so much easier. Um, you know, Excel makes things so much easier.
Yeah.
Being able to, and I don't know anything about Excel, but I know what I know. I know how
Yeah.
to keep. I know how to keep. For me, a lot of my books are basically adding and subtracting.
Hmm.
It's not. It's not. It's not. It's not deep mathematics. We made this much. It cost us this much. This is what we have left over,
Hmm.
and it's that simple. But it also. But you have to do it every day. You have to keep on top
Yes.
of it. And that's the key. And sometimes doing the business isn't that sexy when you're young. You want to play
Yeah.
music and party and have fun and do all that. But I, I can't stress that enough for anybody. The tools are there now for everyone to be able to take care of their own business.
Yeah.
If you get big enough and need to get a manager, great. And if you're lucky, you'll get a good one. In many cases, you don't get one, and
Hmm.
and a manager will, you know, I know it firsthand. I know what bad management can do. I've seen it. I
Hmm.
also know what good management can do. But self management and what you can do as an individual is you have so much more control over your life now. And
Hmm.
you just need to step up and do it.
And there are times in a career where it does make sense to hire something out, but you still, for instance, even if you get to the point where you're hiring a bookkeeper instead of doing the books yourself or
Sure. Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So maybe that's too time intensive a task, and your time is worth more than what you're going to pay the person to do it. So it
Mhm.
makes sense
Of
to
course.
do that. Great. You
Yes.
still need to know enough to be able to look at the books and know what's happening. You still need to know
Yeah.
enough to be able to read the balance sheet or the profit and loss sheet
Mhm.
and to know that nobody's screwing you.
Yeah, yeah. There's one thing that I've seen in our business is
Yeah.
basically it's kind of laziness. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's just oh yeah, I don't want to deal with that. I don't, and
Yeah.
I've done it myself. I've been there, Sarah. I've been there, and shame on me for that. When you're lazy and someone takes advantage of you, you have no one to blame but yourself.
Yeah.
I have learned to not blame people for whether it's professionally or personally. I blame myself for allowing that person to take advantage of me. I could have
Mm-hmm.
stopped that at any time. I could have stopped that manager from taking all of our money.
Mm.
I should have. Maybe had I known, if I knew then what I knew now.
Right.
Um, but you can start now. I mean, and for young artists, you need to listen to artists who've had experience in doing this. You need to take care of as much as your business as possible. And Sarah, you're right. I mean, if you can have good people that can help you and complement what you do, but it's your responsibility, like you say. Okay, let me look at the books. Okay, it doesn't add up here. It's not adding up because I've got this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yes. But I'm a type. I just kind of need to do everything.
I do
So
too.
and many of us, I think, as creatives, I think we're probably better at business and math than we might give ourselves credit for once we get into it.
People mostly don't realize that music is math. And that is coming from someone who, when I was in high school, I did not pass math 11, and my school sat me down and said, "You're going into music, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "So you don't need math 12 to get into that university program, right?" I said, "No." I said, "Okay, we will pass you in math 11 if you promise not to take math 12."
Right,
That was my relationship with math. Math
right,
and I did not get along.
right.
Turns out, uh, functional math is a very different thing than classroom math. So, my point being, musicians are often, I think, much better at functional math than they are led to believe through their high school
Mhm,
years.
mhm, mhm.
Because that's very different than like algebra or trigonometry or any of the things we have to learn in school. Functional math, like money math,
Yeah.
musicians can usually do that
Oh
because
yeah, yeah.
that's a different kind of math.
Well, I think I mean, why I done so well at our business is because it's really not that difficult.
Mm.
I mean, math was one of my strong subjects in school because it's just it's the truth. One and one
Yeah.
is two. One and one is
Yeah.
two. It's the universal truth. It's just it's if when one and one is 1.5, somebody's skimming something off the top.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just functional math, like you say. It's just adding and subtracting. That's all I do. But you just have to do it. It's a discipline. Okay, every Monday I get out the books and I do everything. And okay, where does this have to go here? And it's pretty. I've seen every. We've done this enough now. We have so few. We don't have a whole lot of expenses that are just random. It's always the same 4 or 5 things, with the odd exception, every week, and it's just keeping track of the numbers and staying on top of it, so that when I go to do taxes at the end of the year, it's just basically pull it all up and just print it out.
Mm-hmm.
There's no pulling up a stack of paper and going, that's too daunting.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an everyday thing. And I think that's what musicians need to realize, that the business part of what we do is an everyday thing. If you want to protect and help your artist, be a business person for an hour or two every day. Whatever that means. If that means just making sure all your minimum balances are paid, you're going over your budget. Okay, what have I got here? Being creative. I mean, you may have a bunch of songs on all these different streaming sites or whatever, and you have to keep track of that. And you have to be in the business of looking after all that stuff. I do that. I have a standard thing, what I go through every morning, what I look at, which is, let's start with email and see if there's any fires to put out. Go through the social medias, make sure it's all up to date. See if there's any messages on my phone from my agent that I need to return. And it's just all business stuff for me when I start. That's how once I do my morning practice, I get right into that. I get stuck into that. And then at the end of the day, I mean, I become an artist about this time.
Yeah.
This is about the time where most of the calls that I have to make in a day are done.
Yeah.
It was one of the beauties. I'm quite loving living in Winnipeg. It's a great city. It's fantastic. The beauties of living on the coast was that basically by 3:00, everything shut down.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be in your
time.
I'll get calls from the coast sort of at about 7. I'm going, talking business. And it's like, oh, right. Yeah, you're right. Yes, just the end of the day for you. I'm having dinner right now.
Yeah.
But this is about the time where as an artist, where I start getting creative. And I find that if you do the business, there's a peace of mind.
Yeah.
And a sense of being organized and on top of your game, that you will be a better creative person if your business is together.
Yeah, I agree with that. And learning what your rhythms are, so what times of day you do which things best. That's great. But yes, having all those pieces of the pie happening in a disciplined way, super important.
Oh, Sarah, it's you have to have structure. You can't just you just can't wake up every day and wing it. You have to actually have some. I mean, my day changes. There's always, I can't do this. I got to go do this now. But I always, my intention every day is to have structure to my day and get the most out of every 15-minute section in every hour of every day. I mean, I waste a few of them wandering around in circles going, where are my glasses?
I hear that. Let me tell you.
I'm wearing them. I've done it. They're on top of my head. Oh boy, that's the beauty of living a long life. But I think that the business, having good business, makes me a better creative person. It gives me more confidence.
Yeah.
And the more control you take over your own, you're not going to be happy doing nothing. I know I'm not. I don't think anyone is happy doing nothing and just waiting to be told what to do. That's just a reactive life.
Yeah.
I much prefer the proactive life, where you have some say in how things go. And I think that brings inner value to yourself. Um, I think that's a great, and if people are hard on them, I mean, I'm hard on myself, but some people, doing nothing doesn't make for a fun life. Being busy makes for
It
a fun.
really doesn't. Yeah.
Being busy
Yeah.
makes for a fun life. It's exhausting sometimes, but it makes for an interesting life. And then, then when our time comes, you go, well, I lived it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Scars and all.
As we wrap up here, is there anything else that you think is really important for up and coming artists to know?
Oh boy, that's.
I know it's a vast question.
I just know that it's incredibly difficult for young artists. I have so much compassion for how daunting it must be. We had a great luxury. I mean, when I was 18 years old, I played 52 weeks a year, 6 days a week, 5 hours a night. I got my 10,000 hours real quick.
Yeah, you did.
I got about 30,000 hours. I don't know what I've got. I've got lots. And it's just so, I just feel for young musicians because they can't do it in that way, but you have to find a way,
Yeah.
Talent does rise to the cream rises.
Yeah.
And there will be superstars and there will be new ones. And I don't know how it's going to come in different ways. And I think that just young artists have to be open to that. I think you have to take care of your own business, but I think you have to be solid within yourself, but keep a welcome mat at your door, because you never know who you're going to meet that's actually going to be incredibly beneficial for your business. And when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. Believe them the first time. Don't waste your time trying to fix people. There's a lot of good people out there that will stand beside you, and they'll be on your journey with you, and they're going the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. All right. Where can people find you, Jeff? Web, social media, show listings, all the things.
Yes, we're Streetheart and myself. We're on Facebook. We're both accounts on Instagram. We have Twitter accounts, although I don't really use that much. We don't use that much. It doesn't seem to get it's a hard one to get any traction on Twitter. I think we have our website, streetheart.ca. What else can I tell you?
Do you know what your handle is on Instagram or
my handle on Instagram is Surreal Neill with Neill. And Facebook, Jeff Neill, Streetheart, obviously. We try and keep those pages sort of up to date, with what we're doing show wise and stuff like that. I try and keep a good presence on social media. I think I have we have a good following. I mean, we're not AC/DC. I don't have AC/DC's numbers, but we do well. I would suggest to young artists, don't spend too much time. You're much better by yourself writing songs. Social media will always be there. You don't want to live on it. You can't live on it. But it's an incredibly valuable tool, as we all know. I mean, I don't even have to go into that. I mean, the ability to be able to negotiate and use social media effectively is absolutely critical.
Absolutely.
You need to know it. You need to know it. But you need to take a break from it too, and just be with your thoughts, be with your instrument, be with your muse.
Yeah.
You need time for that too.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Jeff. I really appreciate it. This has been a great conversation.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. Thank you. I thank you for doing this with, and thank you for inviting me to be part of it. It's great.